Well, ever since Crystal Dynamics, the developers of Marvel's Avengers, confirmed that Marvel's Spider-Man and Marvel's Avengers are separate universes and that Spider-Man more or less is never crossing over, this has started the rumor mill and the potential of a new Spider-Man entering this universe. And I think it's quite obvious that's exactly what's going to happen. So let's talk about more than likely how they'll handle this whole situation. So if Crystal Dynamics, the developers, the guy working on the game directly, the guy running the game, Amos, said that the two are not connected, you just have to take him at his word for it. And we know Marvel has teased Spider-Man. They've teased about an appearance down the road. They've teased plenty of the future of Marvel Spider-Man, and of course now that's spawning into its own universe by Sony with the likes of Miles Morales. So Marvel is really looking to tackle games with quite a few big blockbuster hits from this point on out, and it doesn't look like they're just outsourcing to anybody. They really want quality games out there, which honestly I think, in my opinion, and I think most of you will agree, is the smart way to handle it. Now, when it comes to Spider-Man, when they said, it's a new universe, a separate universe, that Marvel's Spider-Man and Marvel's Avengers are not connected, I think most of you, when I made that video, obviously saw what I was saying and understand why. Sony owns that particular version of Spider-Man. The developers, they bought Insomniac so they could guarantee that, it can't be taken away from them, and they're pretty happy with that version of Spider-Man, considering they're making a sequel and a spin-off. So things are looking good for Spider-Man. Now, obviously, what happens to Marvel's Avengers? You can't have a Marvel game that's going to include so many new Marvel characters, that's being positioned as something that's a live service game that's going to live on for, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. Who really knows, right? Depend on how much money people spend on skins and other things in the game will depend ultimately on how long this game lasts. So inevitably, you'd have to see Spider-Man at some point. They've dropped Easter eggs, there's, connections there. So what does this mean? And are we gonna get a new Spider-Man? And it looks like we probably are. Now, I know people will bring up the fact that he's not in it right from the beginning, and this has to do something with contracts. Honestly, it doesn't. He was in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. He's been in the fighting games they put out in the last couple years after the license was taken away from Activision. Again, it's a case-by-case basis, but I think what you're seeing here is that Marvel's Avengers, they wanted to focus on the Avengers. They didn't want to focus on Spider-Man because, again, he's not a core Avenger. He's been off and on the team, but when you think of the Avengers, you don't think of Spider-Man. That's not the first character that comes to mind. Spider-Man has his own separate universe. Those games exist. Superheroes exist within that universe, as obviously there's tons of Easter eggs and locations, but they're not connected. So inevitably, in the Avengers game, we're gonna see Spider-Man. We're probably gonna end up playing as him at some point, or having him drop by and help him out in a scenario. Now, yeah, this will be a new version of Spider-Man created by Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix, and honestly, I think that's for the best. It's a fresh new take. And realistically, let's say in a year from now, or 2 years from now, who knows how long it takes, when the game starts to have that, decrease in player base and population, which every game does, if you release your first quote-unquote event. Now, we know they're going to update this game frequently, like monthly or every other month. What if every year and a half, 2 years, you do events where you have a big storyline that lasts 3 to 4 hours, you drop that content, you have new skins that are only exclusive to their unlocks, and one is based around helping Spider-Man. That's how you get your Spider-Man and you unlock him. And again, you're not stepping on the toes of the Avengers right off the bat, because let's be real, you put Spider-Man in there, people are going to want to play as Spider-Man automatically. I mean, that Marvel Heroes game that came out that got closed like a year and a half ago, I remember jumping in on day one. Everybody was Spider-Man, literally everybody. So again, you're trying to kind of avoid that while you also wait and build up anticipation for Spider-Man, because if, let's say, you sell 10 million copies and in 2 years your player base is 4 million, drop Spider-Man in there, you're going to bring back at least 2 to 3 million more across all the different systems. So again, it's a smart tactical approach, and yeah, we're going to get a new Spider-Man, and I don't think many people are going to have problems with a new interpretation.